Hey folks, Joey here. So I had opportunity the other day to build up a new Trek Madone 9 series, and just taking everything out of the boxes and getting it laid out. Kind of a few things I noticed right off with some of the newer bits and pieces that are kind of proprietary to this actual bike. We'll get into a little bit of those later, but just kind of a little quick glance at what came out of the box there. And arrow seat post, which attaches a little differently, and the handlebars are definitely radically different. There's basically the cables and everything go directly from the levers all the way through the bar stem and then exit out through the bottom. It's pretty nice. They've got it all labeled, so if you ever have to switch any of that out, it should be pretty straightforward. That's a little guide tube there that goes for your rear brake cable, and just kind of a quick little glance at the bike. You've got your controller here for this is a Di2 bike. It's the Trek 9.9 model, so it's pretty slick. Full Dura-Ace Di2. It's not one of my custom builds that I'll typically put on here, but I thought this bike was nice and exotic enough to warrant putting it on here. But anyway, it comes with a really nice little instruction manual. It's really well laid out and pretty easy to follow. I glanced at it as I was going along. I just kind of jumped right into it without really looking at it too much, but it definitely has a lot of good information. But there's a few little things on the bike that are different, but in a lot of ways it's similar to maybe building one of the speed concepts, maybe slightly. But anyway, this is kind of one of the biggest differences between this bike and a lot of others is the steer tube. There's a couple sides that are flat, and there's a groove in the front. And then the actual compression ring that's got some slots there on the sides for your rear brake and rear derailleur and front derailleur on one side, and then the front brake in the center there. So definitely really well thought out. Actually a lot easier than I originally thought it would be. I kind of had heard about how this system went together, and my initial thought was that, because we had built one before, but I wasn't at the shop, and so this is really the first time I've actually got to even mess with one of these, is when I was putting it together. So routing the Di2, I just used a couple of my little routing tools there, and worked out real well. If I was going to do this again, I would probably put like a toe strap or something and hold the fork in, and then route the wires from there. But that's the little the Di2 control box there. I've got it popped out there, and so I've got my wires ran through, and that's where the front brake's going to go. That's rear brake. So basically, at this point, I'm just kind of laying it up on there. I'm gonna, since the brake cable was the longest one, I'm running that one through first, which it was all pretty easy. I kind of just I didn't really follow step by step with the directions. I kind of just went with how I thought would be the most logical way to do it. And I got a little confused here for just some of the pictures in the booklet there. It's the handlebar's upside down, so when you flip it over to put it on, it seems like everything's maybe a little backwards, but it's pretty simple to figure out. It really, you're only really going to be able to do it one way. In the Di2, it doesn't, the wires, once you plug them into the junction box, you don't even really necessarily know which one's which. It's going to operate correctly once everything's plugged in, so it's not a huge deal there. But one thing, just going through the whole bike, there was definitely a lot of eye-opening moments of, why is this like this? And then as you kind of get later on, it's kind of like, oh, yeah, they really thought this thing through, which, that's probably the number one thing, just going through this bike. From a mechanic standpoint, there's plenty of bikes out there that are really well engineered to do the job that they were designed to do, but, when it actually comes time to working on them, or, changing parts, or, initial setup, or maybe you built it and then, somebody, the bike's sitting on your showroom floor, somebody goes to buy it and you have to make some changes after. That can be some bikes, that can be a major headache. With this one, it's going to be basically no problem to, make any stem height adjustments without, having to make any major, rerouting cables or doing things like that. So that's, they definitely thought this bike through when they were, designing it, from an engineering standpoint there. So, gotta, I'm definitely thankful for that. Anyway, this is kind of back to where I was, talking about routing the Di2 wires. At this point it would have been, I got the stem kind of just on the top of the steer tube, and I'm routing the cables through the little holes there. It would have probably been easier just to strap the fork in, and I could have raised the compression plug, and because I was having a little bit of an issue getting my tool through the little gap between the fork and the compression plug there. So, but got it all through. I ended up just pushing a piece of cable housing through, and then just taping the Di2 wire to that to pull it through. But it's not a really far distance to go. So what I would have done, what I'll do the next time is just raise that compression plug up a little bit, and it should be very easy. And then here I initially stuck the front brake cable through, but it went down in through the frame. I wasn't really paying attention, so I just kind of had to pull it back apart and rework that to where it came back down, straight through there. So I got that set up, and at this point I'm just installing the little there's the first, I guess, dust cap spacer, which is split, and on one side the rear brake cable passes through that. So that's basically the little junction that goes, passes through, and then from there you've got these little, spacers that just kind of lock together, and then there's two bumps on the top, so each spacer will either engage into the stem or the next spacer up. So you get into the the thinner ones there, I had to kind of tape them together just to hold it together basically initially, but it's not a huge deal. It's honestly basically pretty easy to do. But yeah, like I say, compared to a bike like a just for example, like a Cervelo P5, if you ever had to adjust stem height on one of those, it's the spacers or all the cables run through, and if you want to change anything, you basically have to disconnect everything and redo it just to remove a spacer. And with those hydraulic brake lines, that could be a something on this bike, which would be a 20-30 minute job, could be a 4 or 5 hour job on something like that. But yeah, it's just kind of figuring everything out, and I definitely learned a lot on it as I went on. So I'm hooking up the front brake here, and it called for a little plastic tube to run over the housing, and I wasn't really understanding for sure why that was there, but we'll find out about that here in just a bit. But so there's kind of that little gap there just above the fork where there's some little flaps, kind of some little hatch doors on either side, and initially I thought they were there just to work on the brake, or adjust it or something like that, and so it's putting it together, and I'm like, man, these things aren't even anywhere near what you would do anything with the brake adjustment. I don't even really know why these are here, but yeah, again, we'll get to that here in just a bit. As far as hooking up the brakes, they look pretty complex when you just look at them, but it's really a very easy brake to install and set up and adjust and everything. I mean, they're pretty much going to be one location once you get them on there, and then there's a little wedge, just kind of a double roller brake, as the wedge pulls up, it expands the top section of the brake, which causes the brake pads to rotate in. Here's a little, this is the rear brake, and I'm switching out the standard pads for the cork pads because this bike did come with the carbon Aeolus 5 wheels. So it's pretty simple, straightforward, basically just like a normal road bike brake caliper, except the brake bolts are on the bottom, which in this here I thought they were going to be, most of the ones that I've had that come through the bottom like that, it's like a long skinny bolt that runs all the way through and you have to take it all the way out. But once I undid these, I found it's just a standard brake bolt. So I took them all the way out here. It's actually easier if you just, I found, unscrew them about 4 turns, and that keeps the brake in, or the little bolt in place, and it allows you to slide the brake pad out. So that way it kind of minimizes the chance of losing a little bolt there, and kind of saves a step as far as trying to put it back in, especially if you're trying to get your fingers in a tight, underneath the fork or whatever. So yeah, just undo that thing about 4 turns, and that'll allow you to slide the brake pad out and put your carbon compound pad in if need be. So yeah, but they just mount with the 2 bolts, and then there's a center, that little small center bolt between the springs there between that mounts up. So yeah, that's what they look like, all hooked up. There's a little cover on the front. That's your little quick release lever there to open the brakes a little bit to get the tire past. But yeah, they're super easy to adjust. There's a you just kind of set it up, and then there's on either side there's adjusts the the width for different size rim widths, and then there's a little spring tension adjustment on either side to get them centered. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward. This thing's really cool here, as far as if you need to charge or check your battery, you just hit the little button there, that bottom one, and it pops it out. You can look at it. The top buttons to adjust your your gears there. Just push it, pop it back in, you're good to go. It's very, very simple. Battery's located just underneath there as well. So another thing's a little different. They kind of changed their seat seat mounting system there. So you got that center bolt that will adjust your fore and aft, and then pinch bolt that you can adjust the tilt separately there. So makes it pretty easy to get it dialed in. And the little bolt on the back adjusts your height. It just slides. And that's the little the ISO decoupler, which pretty cool. Most aero road frames ride pretty stiff as far as kind of a vertical, and this definitely will smooth it out. There's a little mounting hole underneath there just in front of the handlebar stem, which this thing comes with pretty much every mount. That's the little tubeless valves if you want to run tubeless there, which these rims are compatible. But it's got just about every mount in the book. You got a double mount. It's kind of like a Garmin mount, so you can put any kind of you got Garmin mounts, up or lower. You got a SRM mount. You got all kinds of different computer mounts. I say Garmin mount. It's like a GoPro mount. So you could mount a GoPro, or I don't know. I think just about any kind of light. Double. There's double ones, so you can mount your light and your computer or whatever. So that's kind of that super aero bar there. It's going to be super easy to put any kind of accessory you want there on it. If need be, and still stay super aero. So that's pretty cool. Really well thought out there. Yeah, and then that's the little, as you turn it a little further where that cable comes through, it opens up the little side hatch door there. So, I thought that was pretty slick. It just allows you to, stay a super tight aero head tube, but then you go a certain distance and it doesn't interfere, so it's not like locked in. But anyway, checking the weight on this bad boy, and it was surprising that 15.6 pounds, and this is a 62 centimeter bike, so it's a big freaking bike. 7.09 kilos, so it's yeah, it's definitely light. You throw some pedals on there and you're gonna have a mid 16 pound bike. But anyway, built this at Schlegel Bikes, the shop I work at. So you know, definitely nice to have the opportunity to work on some trick bikes. But anyways, yeah, thanks for watching. You know, if you like this video, be sure to hit that like button, or you know, you might even consider subscribing. I put lots of videos out like this. So anyway, thanks for watching.